Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans. 30% of Americans who are planning home improvements of $5,000 or more will pay for those renovations with a high-interest credit card. That may not be a great idea. A better idea may be to take cash out of your home with a Quicken Loans 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. The rate today on our 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is 3.99%, APR 4.08%. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
Rate subject to change. Pay 1.25% fee to receive this discounted rate. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. License in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
TV party tonight! TV party tonight!
Oh, we got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
Don't want to talk about anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated to our favorite shows!
Oh, my circuits! Everybody loves Hypnotoad! Scary Dog! Pearson at Blurnsville!
Futurama!
Good evening. You are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting Network premiere podcast, TV Party Tonight. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, our favorite show is BH 90210, the American comedy drama television series that premiered on August 7th, 2019 on Fox. It's the sixth series in the Beverly 90210 franchise, and it stars the original cast of Jason Priestley, Shannon Doherty, Jenny Garth, Ian Ziering, whatever the fuck his name is, Gabrielle Carteris, Brian Austin Green, and the great, wonderful thespian of our age, Tori Spelling. And speaking of thespians and lesbians, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to bring you an all-star cast. First, the man who said, look, if you don't cover this series, if we don't do a TV party in BH 90210, I ain't doing shit with you anymore. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the punchy pugilist. He's half in the bag. Pat Mullin. How do you do, sir?
I just want to make it known that this is for everybody who ever has to listen to Mark's other shows.
And speaking of Mark's other shows, he's on almost all of them, and he has his own two shows in his own right. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the disapproving dad, Jesse Starcher. How do you do, sir?
Oh, my goodness. Down here at the Peach Pit. This is cotton candy nostalgia, and I cannot wait to talk about it.
And last but certainly not least, how you doing? It's Chris Sheehan.
Hey, how are you? Get me another Mega Burger down here.
So let's just kick it around the table for a little bit, the old hacky sack. First, Pat, what possessed you to want to talk about this tonight? Why were you, one, so excited about this reboot happening, and then you demanding that we talk about it?
So I love Beverly Hills 90210. Not the shitty reboot that happened some 10 years ago. I'm talking the original show, the Walshes, the gang at the Peach Pit with Nat, Luke, all the goodness of that. And you know why I love that show? 'Cause let me tell you a little story. So there used to be this thing called syndication where shows were rerun heavily. And when you got home from school, if you weren't allowed out or whatever, you had the TV to watch. So I would watch reruns of this show I really liked from Saturday morning called Saved by the Bell. Well, after those reruns were over, this show came on, and I had no idea what it is. And it's about these twin siblings in California who seem to have to navigate this incredible world of Los Angeles, specifically Beverly Hills, while trying to be normal, upstanding kids. So that show wound up being Beverly Hills 90210, and I had no idea. So I'd be in school, and I'd hear, all the girls and stuff talking about, oh, my gosh, Brandon this, Dylan that. And, I didn't know how to talk to girls in school or whatever. So this was my opening. It's I watched that show. Boom. In there like swimwear.
Nice. Well
Working
done,
angles.
Pat.
Nice.
I was really surprised when I announced that we were doing this on the Radulich Broadcast Network. I figured it would just be me and Pat kicking it back and forth, because pretty much anyone asks me to do just about anything. If I have time for it, I always say yes. I'm willing to give any crazy TV show or movie a shot. But I amazingly, in fact, we had more guests planned for this show, but not everyone could make it. Let me go to you first, Chris Sheehan. Normally you come on for the wrestling, and you've got your own comic book podcast, but here you are in the midst of a 90210 show. Why, oh, why, Chris Sheehan?
I took it as a personal offense that I wasn't included in this. This is no, this was just one of my, it was like, you say like guilty pleasures, because you didn't want to tell people you watched this show growing up. I mean, this show started in 1990, so I was like in 5th grade, and so like I went through high school with this show, but never told anybody I dug it. And as a matter of fact, when I met the girlfriend, she turned into my wife. She caught me watching this, and I was so embarrassed, and because she thought it was stupid, and I'm like, no, you got to sit down and check this out. You got to sit and watch this. And it was the episode where Dylan was trying to get his money back in like Mexico or something.
Oh,
and it's
Jonesy
like total
and Val.
Yeah, and it's like total action hero. He's got Jonesy the bounty hunter, and there's guns and she just caught on, and we had to start the whole thing over. We went and bought all the DVD sets because the soap opera channel wasn't at the beginning, so we had to get there. And it's just always been with us ever since. This is probably, if not an annual rewatch, it's every 2 years we will watch the entire show.
All right, and fresh off a shower, trying to get all that whiskey, sweat tit, and blood and urine from the Hell Yeah review we did just last night. In walks Jesse Starcher. I can't believe you're a fan of this show, Jesse.
Oh, wow. Well, this was something that I came to really late in the original series because my wife dug it. And I think it was 1998. The show ran, to 99 or 2000? 2000. So me and the wife got married in 98, and I can remember, just catching every once in a while the episodes that she was watching. Back then, you didn't have Hulu, you didn't have Netflix, you couldn't go to 2 separate TVs and watch whatever you wanted to. So I would have to, what I would call, suffer through a woman's program.
Hell yeah!
But all of a sudden, I'm just caught up in what's going on, and of course, they had a lot of reruns on in syndication on different channels. So I caught myself up and learned a lot about Beverly Hills 90210 and enjoyed watching, I think, half of the second to last season and all of the last season with my wife, where we sat down and made sure that we programmed the VCR so we didn't miss that final episode. So I was really excited to hear that they were coming back. I was like, this will be something me and my wife can actually sit down and watch again. Now, I didn't know what we were going to get, and I know we'll talk about that here in a second, but this was so unique the way they did this. So, but yeah, I was all for it. And then when I, of course, watched what we have here, these 6 episodes, I was like, I'm fucking on board.
So, real quick, I was actually a big Melrose Place fan.
Oh, I love that show.
Oh, my God. Remember when they blew up Melrose Place? Huh?
Oh, yes. When Bree from Desperate Housewives blew it up?
Yes. Good stuff.
Joe's baby.
Yes. I was a big Melrose Place fan, and I remember I came downstairs in my house on Long Island, living with my parents, to watch, early to watch Melrose Place because it followed Beverly Hills 90210. But I came down early, and my mom was watching Beverly Hills 90210, and there's not much that we have in common that we bond over, my mother and I, but on this particular occasion, I sat down and watched the whatever minutes left there were of 90210, and it became a thing that we did for a little while, where from that moment forward, we would watch 90210 and Melrose Place together. It became our thing for a brief moment in time. And
did you also fit in Models Inc.?
No. I want to say my uncle actually worked on that show. It was one of the ones he worked on. He was a sound editor. But no, I never made it that far. I was preferential to Melrose Place. I just was. But 90210 was a fun show. And when Pat pitched this to me, I was like, okay, whatever. I'll talk about anything on this network. I'm a whore like that. But I'll tell you. Yeah. But I will say this, and we can kick off the discussion this way. When I realized that this was a meta show within a show, and that they were actually playing, and this is a quote, heightened versions of the reality that inspired their real lives, inspired by their real lives and relationships, I'm like, I am fucking all in. No pun intended. To this BH 90210 show. First of all, I love a good show about making a TV show or making a movie. I find that stuff interesting. So this whole concept of like these sort of has-been, couldn't really get it together after the big one actors getting together to reboot, the height of their acting careers with this show. And you get to see kind of like a dramatized nuts and bolts of putting it, the pitch, the writing, putting together the pilot, all of that. Loved it. I thought this show was, for a 6-episode event series, I thought this was fantastic. Pat, did you know when we were getting a BH 902 that this was going to be a meta show within a show, kind of editorializing, this very now moment in culture?
Nope, and nor did I care.
Well, now that you know that that's what this show is, were you disappointed? Did you want like a traditional, just seeing basically what they tried to present as the reboot, like just seeing these characters X amount of years later, or were you okay with this concept?
At first, yes, I did want to catch up with the gang from West Beverly High and California University, but instead what we got, I think, was just as fun, if not more fun.
What did you think, Chris, of this whole meta concept, this editorializing of the culture in this moment?
I didn't pay attention to the news leading up to it, but my curiosity did get the best of me like a couple of days before the show actually hit. And I just saw some reviews from, the critics or whatever, and they said it's not what you expect it's going to be. So because I was expecting to pick up, 20 years later with these same characters, Donna and David married, and, maybe they're all coming back for a reunion, or unfortunately, maybe they're all coming back for a funeral. I didn't know what they were going to wrap this in, but then I read that it's it's going to be a little different than what you might be expecting, and I was excited for it. This is pure comfort food, so it didn't really matter how it was presented. Mm-hmm. And after watching the first episode, I had like this weird love-hate with it. Like I hated it for what it was, but at the same time I just adored it. And I think that's kind of, speaking of the culture we're in now, we have all these reboots. I mean, they got a Punky Brewster reboot coming next year. So I mean, there's reboots all over the place. And like Twin Peaks, one of my favorite things in the world. Me and the wife go to that. We go to that waterfall every year, and we stay in that hotel every year. And one of my favorite things, they did the reboot, and after the first episode of that, same thing. I had this like weird love for it, but at the same time, it's like a hatred, and it was just so hard to explain and reconcile inside me. And two things from very similar times in my life too. So it's just interesting. I do love the way they did it. I think they definitely stuck the landing, and I only hope that we get more of it.
Did any of you guys? Because I certainly didn't. The only two actors from this that I was even remotely familiar with post 90210 were Brian Austin Green, and the only reason why I know, he's actually had quite the television career. I was looking him up before the show started, and he's worked steadily. Like the way he's presented in the show, not at all what's happened to him in real life. But I at least was contemporaneously aware that he was in Sarah Connor, the Terminator, the Sarah Connor Chronicles, because I actually watched that show, as stupid as it was. And I knew he played one of the Reese brothers. And then Ian Ziering, has been in a whole bunch of like the Sharknado films. Apparently, he has like a residency at the Sci-Fi Channel. It's just like we need someone for this shitty sci-fi picture. Well, get Ian Ziering; he'll do anything. But I didn't like follow Tori Spelling. I wasn't aware that she was a reality star, or I wasn't aware of Jenny Garth's series of failed marriages. I really haven't followed Jason Priestley at all. The one thing Luke Perry, who's no longer with us, the thing that I remembered him in was most famously, he was in Oz. That's what I remembered him being in a couple of episodes of Oz.
And he's dong in Oz too.
Yeah, he does. And he shows up in a couple of other things that I've seen, so I knew he kept working, and he actually had a pretty decent post 90210 career. So I'll go to you first, Jesse, and then again we'll go back around the yard here. Have you followed any of these people since they left 90210? Like, were you aware of what was going on with them before the show started?
Yeah, like Luke Perry was over there in Riverdale country. He was the dad to Archie. So
was he really?
Yeah, he was Archie's father. So I watched when I was watching Riverdale, that was you were expecting, Senior Archie to show up, which is he's affectionately called in this house anyway. And now Brian Austin Green, no, I had no idea what he was doing. So you named off some of those TV shows, and I had to go to the Wikipedia. I was like, "Are you sure?" I had to make sure because, dang, yeah, he's got a list there. Tori Spelling definitely knew she was a reality star. My wife was watching that TV show that she did. I didn't have a chance to say how when I came into this in the first episode, I was expecting a reunion as well. And I think, Mark, you sent me a message and you said something along the lines of, I've heard it's pretty meta. So I kind of had an idea of what to expect. But then when we saw it show up on Hulu and I looked at my wife, I said, "Did you see that this is back?" And she got these real wide eyes. So we sat down and watched it. Cold turkey, had no idea what to expect. And then here, when the Peach Pit dream sequence happens every episode, here all of a sudden they just yell, "Swerve, bro," and you wake up, and now all of a sudden we're in the reality that we're kind of familiar with. And it was so neat to watch my wife look at me and go, "They're using their real names." And then we start to realize what this show is actually going to be about. And the reason why I bring that up now is because Tori Spelling was the one where she was like, "Wait a second, I think she's using her real name. What's going on here?" Shannon Doherty, the only thing I can remember, I think it was 90210. Wasn't she in Clerks? Mallrats.
Actually, she was in Charmed for however long that was on.
That's
and
right.
got fired from that too.
Yep.
Was she really?
Did not follow that. I had no idea what Gabrielle Carteris was doing. So, and Jenny Garth, no clue. So I wasn't following most of these people unless they were on screen. So that was about it.
All right, Pat, I know you are my pop culture guru at times. You digested all kinds of stuff and can spit it out with the memory of an elephant. So tell me, what did you follow post 90210 with this cast and crew of people?
Oh, Jenny Garth had a sitcom on the WB for, I believe it was 4 years, called What I Like About You with Amanda Bynes before she went all cuckoo bananas and shaved her head and such. It was actually a pretty fun show. I liked it. Jason Priestley is my spirit animal, so I tried to always keep up with stuff he was doing. He had an indie flick called Love and Death on Long Island that was really good. Honestly, one of the better performances I've seen. And not just from him, but John Hurt, who, people are like, "Oh, wait, that's a real actor." If you've never seen it, I highly recommend it. He did a lot of TV based in Canada, where he's from. So he had, he had a TV movie called I Want to Marry Ryan Banks. He had a recurring on True Calling with Eliza Dushku. He had a show called Love Monkey with, what's his name from The Flash? Tom.
I know who you're talking about. Shit.
It's on Ed. Yeah, that guy.
Yes.
Yeah. Call Me Fitz was a show in Canada he had for a couple seasons. He's in one now called Private Eyes, where he plays a private eye, ironically enough.
Wasn't he in some Western?
Jason Priestley?
Yeah. No, I'm thinking of Luke Perry.
Luke Perry was in 8 Seconds.
That's what I was thinking of. Okay.
Yep.
Still one of the best movies ever. Yeah. But aside from that, I mean, everybody knows Ian Ziering for the Sharknado movies. Brian was in the Terminator series, like Mark said. He had a one-season show called Wedding Band that I thought was hysterical and did not get picked up for a second year, which disappointed me. And is probably best known right now for being Mr. Mom to his kids with Megan Fox.
Oh, really? See, I didn't know that. I thought this whole bit about him staying home, being a stay-at-home dad, was entirely fictionalized. What about you, Sheehan? I know you and your wife live in a treehouse and don't follow contemporary culture, as I understand.
Not much of it. As much as we can avoid, we do. But no, I think I remember Jason Priestley tried his hand at race car driving, right? Wasn't he in a really bad wreck and had his face kind of shattered or whatever?
He had a very bad concussion.
I remember that. Ian, I know about the shark movies. I've never seen one, but I do know that they exist.
Oh boy, are you missing out?
I'm sure I am. But But our man David Silva, who has like X-Pac heat with me, every time I see him, I picture him like dancing in the credits, and I'm like, oh, I want to punch that dude. But every time I see him, I get that reaction. But he actually was in a season of one of my other favorite shows, Desperate Housewives. He dated he dated Bree, the one who blew up Melrose Place, actually. So that was pretty cool to see. Tori Spelling, I know she does a lot of sponsorship online. That's about all I know. Jenny Garth had she had like a fixer up show on like HGTV or something for like a hot minute there, because my wife will always have that on too. But that's about all I know. And I knew that Luke was on. I knew he was on Riverdale.
Oh, Riverdale.
Yeah.
Not that.
I never seen Riverdale. Oh, yeah. I unfortunately know that as well. But yes, I've never seen Riverdale, but I knew that was like part of the reason why they couldn't confirm him for this reboot when it was announced initially.
All right, so let's dig into this show. We begin now. I normally don't do episode by episode breakdowns, but this one's so short, it's worth kind of looking at it, because each episode also deals with an element of getting a TV show started. So we start off with the reunion, and traditionally TV shows, that first show, man, that pilot. I find doing a lot of these TV parties and looking at a show from beginning to end, the pilots are always kind of shaky. We always kind of say the same thing. It's just like, it started off a little hit and miss for me, but it finds its footing later on. And I'll tell you, this one, I was committed to watching all the way through, but they almost lost me with this. Because it's so silly and so over the top. And, like, I don't understand, they're playing fictionalized, over the top, like professional wrestlers. Like, I'm Steve Austin, but I'm Steve Austin turned up to 10, to be entertaining. Because, we want to, that's what we want to see on TV. We don't want to see plain Janes. But this whole, Tori's life is a mess. She's, like, impoverished. And Jenny Garth, is this personality disordered mess, and this cast is getting together for this convention, and there's drunken brouhahas and a dress being stolen, and just like, what are we doing here? When the show really starts to I don't, this first episode, it was introducing the concept, getting you caught up with the actors, kind of setting a tone. And then introducing at the very end the idea of a reboot. And I think this is where the conversation of the reboot in current culture starts to take place. But getting there, Sheehan, you're big on the whole cringe TV thing in terms of, oh, that's cringy. That's where I was with this first episode. I'm like, oh, this is not good. This had a lot of cringy moments.
It was a little bit embarrassing. The dress stealing scene was it was almost a bridge too far. Where the wife told me, I'm not watching this anymore. After that. She came around. She came around, but she did not want to. She said, "This is not what I signed up for. This is not what I wanted." Plus, I think I annoyed her because every time two people were on screen, I said they're gonna bang, and more often than not, I was right or almost right. But she got sick of hearing that about the third or fourth time. But it was pretty cringy. Some of it, of course, was done for effect, like where they showed up at the convention and the person checking them in didn't recognize them. It was a little silly, but it was a hard sell at first. It's like I said, I had this weird love for it because it was so comfortable, but at the same time, it's like, ooh, I hate this.
Pat, what was your reaction to this first episode? I mean, I know you were excited no matter, if it had been two gay cowboys eating pudding, you'd have been fine with it. But still, what did you think of this first episode? Were you a little gun-shy after this, or were you like, nope, this is exactly what I wanted it to be?
It was just ridiculous enough to really hook me. The angle with the whole dress and the breakdown and them having to face a court sentencing that forces them to be together. I was like, this is just absurd enough to be so entertaining. I'm all in. How
about you, Jesse?
Oh, I appreciated what they were trying to do, and I think that's what made me go, yeah, this is unique enough. This is something that I've not seen done in any other shows that I could think of, and I wanted to see it through the end. There was, I mean, the first episode, I remember Mindy at the end of it looking at me and go, I don't know. So there was a lot of people that I think were on the fence, like they came into this expecting one thing and came out of it with something totally different. And it did seem a little ham-fisted with the humor, but there were a lot of like almost kind of like laugh out loud moments for me in the first episode. And I mean, obviously the big thing at the end when she steals the dress and they take off, I thought, this is good. I'm hooked. I want to see what's going to happen next. I want to see where we go from here. I liked being introduced to all the characters that we've missed out over, close to 20 years. What are we going to see? Well, we find out that we're not going to get those same characters we know and love. We're going to get those actors and actresses that we grew up on and loved. So, and a weird version of their reality. It was fun. I had a good time. I remember telling Mindy, I said, you may not be in it, but I'm definitely watching the next episode. So, I'm trying to think of some of the moments from that first episode where, just the introduction to the characters. Obviously, we find out that our two main characters are going to be Tori and Jenny. And I was okay with that. I was like, okay, well, this will, we gotta start somewhere, and let's start with these two. They seem like the main people, and of course, I'm on the I'm trying to figure out where's Brenda. Where's Brenda?
I didn't care.
That's funny. So there's a couple of different plot lines that carry us through the remaining 5 episodes. There's the main drag, which is putting the show together. Every episode is sort of named after an element of putting together a show. We have the pitch, the photo shoot, the table read, pictures up, and then the long wait. Whether or not they would be picked up for series once the pilot was shot and aired. And so there's elements about that. I kind of want to start the discussion there, and I'll bring up a few more. We can sort of interweave some of these other things that go along with it. But one of the things I loved about this, and you can kind of add or comment on what I'm bringing up here, is the character of the writer who ends up being Megan Fox's daughter, and she's kind of sort of dating Ian Ziering by the end of the series.
Denise Richards' daughter?
Sorry, Denise Richards' daughter. Yeah. Thank you. Because she's obviously like turned up to almost be like mocking the Hollywood culture of quote unquote wokeness. She writes the pilot, and she totally misunderstands the characters. They all hate it. But then there's these personal interactions she has with Ian Ziering where this is going to be funny, actually. For us 4 guys, utterly, I don't even have to ask. I know, us 4 guys, utterly sympathetic with Ian Ziering, who's just existing in a world that has moved on without him. Poor guy.
100%.
I am unfrozen caveman.
This poor Encino Man fuck is just trying to exist in this world, and this woman just keeps tearing into him, and at no point is he doing anything like really bad, like really misogynistic. He's just kind of being him, and then he tries to be helpful, and she's slowly but surely warming up to him. But I loved that character. I love the character of the writer and all she represented, as horrible as it is in reality. I actually thought the actress pulled it off well. And I loved her interactions with Ian, and then once she does warm up to him, they do this bit where it's like, well, I don't really want to date, and and it's this overly complicated description of what their relationship should be. It was fun. Which does bring up the larger question, and I'm going to weave this into it too, so you guys can react to this as well. We have Gabriel Carteris, whose big contribution to this is hey, I need to explore my sexuality in this, and so there's the actress sort of like, well, have I always been gay? Am I gay now? I don't know.
Part of the same show twice.
Hang on, Pat. We'll get there. I love this idea of, like, this is her opportunity to really explore herself, and she's taking on this issue of sexuality and how it's not always as neatly defined as we want it to be.
Yeah, sure it's not.
And then, in some people. And then within the show itself, you know, now she doesn't know if she's gay or not, but she's exploring. Meanwhile, it's like, you have to sign this thing that we're dating, and you're okay with it because, you know, of the Me Too thing that happens. I was laughing my ass off at some of this.
Because of the Dave Chappelle love contract skit?
Yeah. So I threw a lot out there. Feel free to sort of, you know, latch on to what tickles your fancy here or add something. But I'll start with you, Pat. Between the writer, the atmosphere, and the whole stuff with Gabriel Carteris, what'd you think of all that?
One, I'm already working with a lawyer to get consent forms out to every drugstore in the country in like 20 packs.
Wow.
Because it's 2019, so why the hell not?
Sure. I don't understand why you're going analog with paper. Just have it on an app. You know, she's just fingerprint ID, and, you know, that says she's okay to bang.
I think you misunderstand Pat Mullin there, Mark Radulich. Okay?
Sure, he is the analog man.
In the digital world. Yeah, so there's that. Gabrielle Carteris is awful. She's just not gotten any better in 20 plus years that this show has happened. She was the worst part of the original show. Nobody liked Andrea. We still don't like Andrea. Apparently other girls don't like Andrea. Her husband, the only person who does like her, is now pushed aside like a schmuck who just takes it lying down.
Or not lying down, as the case may be. Ding, ding.
Oh, my.
Like, what a loser that guy is. Like, your wife comes to you, oh, you know, I think, I kind of think I need to explore things. Oh, okay. And then it's like, oh, you know, I'm exploring, but I think I kind of need to get back out there. It's like, oh, by the way, I want to get back out there with women. So, yeah, you're out. And instead he's like, oh, well, I support you, Gab. You know, we've been together this long. And shut the fuck up.
I know why
you been you instead of Luke.
I know how and why you're reacting the way you are. They write him any other way, but what they did, he's a villain on this show, and Variety is writing editorials about what a horrible character this is.
Yeah, how dare you stand up for yourself as a man? Yeah, okay. Where are we? Gabrielle sucks. That's right.
Right.
Yeah, she's just so fucking terrible, and she's a bad actress. And the way she plays this part as such a fucking liberal douche, like, just get her off of my screen and burn her.
He's got feelings.
I think so, yeah.
From the Strong Opinion Squad, Pat Mullin.
I hate Andrea on the original show for her bullshit like this. And now it's gotten even worse in the era of whatever the hell woke is supposed to mean. Yeah, I thought woke was when you get up out of bed, but whatever.
All right. Chris Sheehan, again, brought up a lot of stuff here.
I gotta follow that?
Yeah. what do you got, buddy?
It's follow Pat, man. It's always tough.
The woke writer, I wasn't a fan. But it's weird because they were playing it up. She was dialed up to 11 to where she looked like a cartoon parody of that sort of a personality type. So I don't know if that was a commentary on that personality type or if they were actually trying to play it straight and just go for shot.
It has to be. I feel like somebody in the writer's room knows that this is a thing and said, I'm going to comment on it without really commenting on it.
There you go. That very well could be it, because I think it was like Ian said, like, oh, you have a nice smile. She's like, what are you looking at my smile for? It's like, wait a minute.
What is that line from Spider-Man? It's like, you look cute, oh, and therefore I have value. No, I'm just fucking with you. Like, it's that scene, but with the I'm just fucking with you part cut out.
Cut out. Yeah.
You guys haven't ridden mass transit in 2019.
No, I'm kind of okay with that.
Boy, let me tell you how close I've been to getting pepper sprayed or whistle sold because I said, hey, that's a really nice dress, or hey,
I'm sure
great
the
smile.
trigger fingers are very itchy these days on those things.
God,
sure.
what was it that I saw that it was like parodying being on a college campus and like a guy asks a woman for directions and she just yells out rape and sprays him in the eyes?
Jeez.
I forget where I saw that from, but go on.
Well, this wasn't quite as turned up as that, so that's a good thing. Andrea exploring her sexuality. What's her real name? The hell's her
Gabrielle
real name?
Carteris.
There she is. Yeah. I'm calling her Andrea. I don't care. But I think we all kind of knew with it being current year that somebody was going to be exploring sexuality, so it might as well have been her. Her husband came off, like Pat said, he was like a Weasley little nebbish fool, but at least at the very, very end, he said, "I'm not going to wait forever for your answer." So he didn't really stand up for himself, but he.
Yeah, but then you find out in season 2 he winds up with the costume designer named Michael.
he's the one taking pictures. But I
just like to watch.
We all have our fetishes, but we knew that one of them would be exploring sexuality because they can't not do that.
Sure.
And she's as good as anybody to give that a shot.
But that was
because there's nothing else to do with her.
There isn't. There isn't. Yeah,
but I'll tell you
really
what, that was the fun of it, and that's why I say, like, I feel like the show does a lot of commenting on things, like it's like a volleyball setter. They just kind of set the ball and like, well, whatever happens, happens. I've done my part. Like they don't commit to a position. They just kind of present a thing as a thing and go, you do with this what you want. We're just telling you it's out there. And what I liked about, I'm with you, Andrea sucks, but I think the idea of the romanticized coming out, and people are going to hear that and be like, what's romantic about it? People come out and get like disowned by their parents. In some cases, it's very romanticized, like this notion of being free sexually, like being free
discovering
to
your real self or accepting your true self.
Yeah, very
absolutely.
Romanticized. And I think what the show does, and I think really well, and it's actually kind of a fun take on it, is how much of a trap that can be. Because now it's like, well, I'm just exploring, I'm trying to figure things out, I want kind of a nebulous, fluid definition of sexuality for myself because I don't really know, and I'm not totally comfortable with going full bore into this. And
because I'm just an animal that wants to bang anything.
Sure. And then the people around you are demanding you pick a label.
They're pushing. Yeah, they're pushing.
And I really like that because I think that is ultimately the commentary on this of, like, individually people just need to figure some things out for themselves, especially if it's been kind of bottled up in their youth. But society has zero patience for it. It's like, pick a team, Mets or Yankees, let's fucking go already. Jesse, we threw a lot on the table there. You want to pick through it and take a bite of something?
I'll tell you that I did not like Gabriella's relationship with Christine. Okay? Now, I'm just... The only reason I didn't is because it really didn't need to happen. As in, they could have been friends and Christine walk her through, like, okay, well, hey, you're new to the scene. They didn't have to become like an item immediately. I thought that felt really rushed to me, and I don't think it didn't need to happen. It's not like I vehemently objected to lesbians being on the screen. It was more like, okay, well, why do we have to have them immediately in a relationship? Oh wow, she's met her first lesbian that she knows. Now they've got to be in a relationship. That didn't need to happen. So whatever.
Also,
go ahead.
Apparently, like, Christine Elise was adamant that they not bring up her real life relationship with Jason Priestley that happened during the show.
Oh, really? Interesting. As for Ian and his, his relationship with the screenwriter girl there, the funniest part, watching Ian be this 90s macho man in this 2019 world, when he starts to begin to have this relationship with her, she says the words, I can't remember if it's him or if it's her, but somehow the phrase Netflix and chill comes up, and
yes.
He has no fucking clue what that means. He actually thinks he's going to go over and watch some Netflix, and I thought that was hilarious. So I loved kind of watching them bounce off each other. Yeah, she was she was really hard to take, and just like you guys said, dialed up to 11. We didn't, but I think that was the point. They dialed up a lot of shit in this series to 11.
Sure.
Just because it's just to have that hilarity that can sometimes, and the drama that happens throughout it. So I didn't mind that. I thought that was some fun stuff.
The other really fun relationship in this show, I mean, we got to talk about Donna and David. Well, forever Donna and David. But before we do that, let's talk about the real fun one, and that is Jenny Garth and Jason Priestley. So you have Jenny Garth, who is this multiple-time failed marriages. She's got like an angsty teenage daughter who wants to become an actress, and there's a lot of that parental... Look, I almost every day I tell my kids, look, do yourself a favor. Don't fucking get involved in a career that involves people. Okay? Go learn about computers, be an engineer, make fucking money. Don't be a social worker like your dad. Or a teacher like your mom. You'll never be able to move out of this house. And so, so you have Jenny Garth, who's like, I was an actress and it did XYZ to me, and I don't want you to follow in my footsteps, that sort of thing. And I really like that. Meanwhile, every time in the first few episodes, every time she's on screen with Jason Priestley, she's just got cat claws out, and of course they bang in the first episode. But of course they do. But beyond that, like when they're not in the bed together, they just have this really animosity between each other, and it's kind of all one way. It's like it's all Jenny going after him, and it's a lot of her projecting a lot of anger onto him. She felt like she was mistreated by the media for doing the exact same things that he was being lauded for, though that's basically a rephrasing of what she says in the show. So, like he gets away scot-free just by virtue of being a guy, and she is viewed as trash by the media and fans and whatnot. And she's like, I fucking had it. I just want to hit you with a car because of it. But there's all this sexual tension that obviously bubbles up between them. And over the course of a few episodes, they actually work things out, and they realize, that they're closer than she thinks they are, or she's allowed them to be. And I thought this was one of the stronger, more interesting relationships of the show. What did you think of Jenny and Jason, Pat?
Loved it. First of all, because it's what we all want to happen. And when I say we all, I mean 90210 fans who understood that the couple we always wanted to see together in the end was Brandon and Kelly, or as we called them back in the day, Brelly. So even though they're not Brandon and Kelly, they're Jason and Jenny, we still want them to hook up and be together just to get that satisfaction. So I was all about it. But the fact is they have really good chemistry on screen together regardless, whether it's angsty, whether it's passionate, or whether it's like playful. Like my favorite scene between the two of them is probably the one where they're having like in the last episode, they're in Jason's office together, and they're having like this little playful banter back and forth, and Jenny like intentionally pulls his door closed, knowing he hates it to annoy him in a cute way, and he's like, don't close my door, and she does it anyway.
Yeah.
And then that leads, of course, to the end of the show where, yeah, like the whole cast walks hand in hand, but initially Jason and Jenny hold hands together before that even happens. And Jason kisses her hand very politely, and
yeah,
it's good stuff. Mm-hmm. Jesse, go ahead.
Well, the relationship between those two, it was weird coming into this show because, like I said, I definitely watched my fair share of reruns, but I didn't know the history of the actors and actresses on the show. I knew about the big beats, Shannon leaving, and some of the other, the other conflicts behind the scenes. So when I got into the episodes, I felt like I was kind of missing something because I didn't know all that history that had happened. Like I couldn't appreciate everything that was happening on the screen because I didn't know all of the behind-the-scenes drama that occurred prior to it and during the heyday of the original series. So watching Jason and Jenny act together, I believe that when it comes to acting, because they're in a real weird predicament here when they're on the screen. They have to act, but act as themselves, and actually make it believable that they're acting that way. I don't know if that's hard or if that's easy, because it confuses me a little bit. So, is the chemistry between the two actually there? That's where stuff gets kind of confusing. Like, is it actually there, or are they actually doing a great enough job acting to where it seems like it's just flawless? Which it's both hand in hand.
I think it's hard to fake something as ethereal as chemistry.
Okay, and I will go with that. So they have it, and I would say that Jenny, of all the actors, of all the cast, she was probably my favorite off of here, and I think that she was probably seemed like the most accomplished. I definitely believed where she was coming from. You know, when I compare her to the worst of the worst, which I believe was Christine, it was like miles ahead of that. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's where I'll leave it. I enjoyed watching their relationship kind of evolve and devolve immediately. I mean, it fell apart, and I'm rooting for them. And now, you know, as we end the season, if I remember correctly, and boy, has it been a while since I watched the last episode, but I know she was kind of into her bodyguard. Now, do they end up breaking up? Help me out here.
Well,
Yes.
hang on.
Tattoos her initials on them.
Oh, that's right. And she is non-committal to
Freaked
just about
out.
anything. Yeah.
Well, that's actually a really fun thing. And let me set this up, and I'll throw it to you, Chris. Respond to this or whatever. But what I like about the portrayal of her is how she does, and I say I like it, but I actually hate this about certain people that I know, and it's not just girls. I've seen this happen in both guys and girls.
Her fluid personality, where she becomes the perfect mate for whoever she's with.
Yeah, she loses her entire
Identity. Yep, absolutely. I thought it made perfect sense for her character, and I'm glad you didn't send me to talk about Kelly and Brandon, because the two gentlemen before me said it all. I had nothing to add to it. It was perfect. But I think after she's been just broken so many times, and I don't even remember how many failed marriages they said she had. Like, it was a fair amount, like 3 or 4 at least.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it stands to reason that she might want to give a little bit and try to be the perfect mate for whoever. And there might have been a little bit of trying to make other people jealous there that I might be projecting onto the entire thing, but it seemed like she was trying to be perfect as a way to stick it to people around her. Like Jason was having a real shitty time in his marriage. Donna's having a bad time in her marriage. David's having a hard time in his marriage. And here she is with this perfect relationship where she loves golf because this dude loves golf. It just seemed very almost passive-aggressive, but I really, really dug the portrayal.
Yeah, I thought it was a very interesting choice for her characterization. Did anyone else think Jason Priestley would be the kind of guy that would punch an actor on set? Just curious.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just he's into car racing. And
Hockey, yeah.
Mark, I was going to say, Mark, you still lived in New York at the time when they used to do the Garden of Dreams charity hockey game.
Okay.
He played in that every year.
Okay, fair enough. I will not
Against
question.
big guys, because if you've ever met Jason Priestley, he's kind of like Sly Stallone height, but without Sly Stallone muscle.
Okay.
But he didn't care. He's just an animal on the hockey rink.
Okay. I'll give it to him. I won't question his manhood.
Canadian. He likes to fight. Mark.
Fair enough. We cannot go another minute further in this podcast without talking about, oh boy, Donna and David, and you know it's the relationship that wouldn't die in the show, and of course they have this sort of meta, like, well, we dated on the show, but we've always had this weird connection. Not to mention that, you know, as Chris just said, Donna's having difficulty in her marriage, driven somewhat by financial instability, and sort of her husband feeling like Donna just fucking up and left the family to go do this show, and he's like, "Well, I'm not Mr. Mom. What are you doing to me here?"
6 kids? Is that how many it was? 6 kids?
Not how many she actually has in real life, but
Let me tell you, I'm taking my wife's shoes so she remains barefoot in the kitchen, no matter what. She is not to leave until those kids graduate.
Hell yeah, Jesse. Hell yeah, Jesse.
Hell yeah, sir.
Hell yeah. We just reviewed that last night on the Metal Hammer of Doom. Anyway,
I know all those 90210 fans are just dying to hear hell yeah reviews.
I didn't know he covered that. So you have Donna, who is driven to push this show because of the financial instability. She doesn't have her reality show anymore. Her hockey husband is no longer really earning a living, and they've got bills to pay. So, and apparently this is at least to some degree based on her real life financial mismanagement, from what I was reading. I don't know that much about Tori Spelling. So, her
dad was rich.
Sure. And so was Trump's. So I just individually, if we could just focus on Donna for a second, I really liked, because I always felt like her character in the show was kind of a weakling. You know, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but she always seemed, you know, just like she had no backbone to her, and she was just sort of a dippy character. And in this one, and it may be, you know, driven by the fact that this is her and Jenny Garth's like idea to do this show, both in real life and within the show. So she kind of makes herself the star. But I also felt like she made herself very sympathetic. Like I did not feel she was a dippy character. There's a degree of entitlement by virtue of how she's grown up, but she very quickly does things in the show to kind of push you past that as a viewer and say, no, this is a person who is very true and very real, and is very much giving of herself in order to make this work, and is struggling, and that's where the empathy comes from. You know what I mean, Chris?
Well, yeah, she becomes like the heart of the cast, and you can empathize. Well, I thought she was portrayed very well here. I know a little bit because I think my wife probably watched those shows. I think like after her father passed, like her stepmother cut her off, so she didn't get any sort of inheritance or very minimal inheritance, and I think that's why she does so much, you know, like Instagram sponsorship stuff now, where like. Because my wife is getting into the Instagram sponsorship stuff, so it's like she says that Tori Spelling's there all the time doing this stuff. So it's kind of interesting to consider. But I do like that she started kind of in the Donna role where she was letting people push her around, and then all of a sudden she's like, you know, screw it, we got to get this show done. It's either going to get done or it's not going to get done, and no one else is making it happen but me. So she grew that backbone and pushed. So I kind of dug it.
She went into the jungle to fetch Sharon Doherty and crawled up a hill in heels.
And pooped in a hole, right? And
pooped in a hole. You know, I'm going to give it to Donna. Pat, you're struggling here, I feel like.
No, I'm not struggling.
Okay. No, you're committed to thinking Donna was a shitty character?
And Tori's a shitty actress, yes.
Okay. Jesse, your take on Donna before
she has a shitty face. Thanks to her shitty plastic surgeon.
Are you good? I don't want to cut you off, sir. You have the floor.
No, that's all I got for right now.
Oh, fantastic. Jesse, talk to me a little bit about Donna's portrayal and how she sort of motivates the plot.
Well,
just don't look her in the face.
You have a...
Christ, she looks like an aardvark.
You have an actress who, you know, was probably thought of as daddy's girl for the longest time. And now, you know, 20-some years later after this show brought her to fame, she's decided to try and go back and resurrect some of that fame. So I'm not going to say I know what it would be like in her shoes to be a Hollywood actress and want to go and get a show started and have 6 kids to worry about back at home. And potentially your husband's got an issue with the fact that, number one, you left him with the kids. And number two, oh, yeah, you're hanging out with the guy that, you wouldn't want your wife hanging out with. I wouldn't want my wife hanging out with him either. I'd be worried. But, Brian...
Number 3, she looks like Jerry Cooney after 13 rounds with Larry Holmes.
She's hot. Hot. But yeah,
I'm sorry.
You know,
After all this, now all I can do is picture her face on the Pantera Vulgar Display of Power album cover.
oh,
It's vulgar, all right.
If someone out there who has like Photoshop abilities, if you could just send me a picture of the Vulgar Display of Power album cover with Donna's face on it, I'll be very appreciative.
Her face now. I used to make fun of how bad her fucking tits were in the original show. Because, good lord, they were just misshapen, and she had like the Kofi Kingston chest in between them.
The deflated pecs look.
oh,
And now it's just traveled up to her fucking face.
oh, wow. Yeah, I really liked her. Here's my one thing. Are we gonna? Is this my chance to talk about the relationship between
Please.
Donna and Brian? Okay.
Go ahead. Take the wheel, Jesse.
I'll call them actors' names, and I'll call them the actual real names. We'll just mishmash it all up here. But either way, I for one don't like shows that kind of make me root for adultery, and I feel like that is kind of what makes this her position as Tori going into this show and having these. I got the feeling that there were some feelings she had for Brian Austin Green. Obviously, there was a history between the two, and it really puts you in an uncomfortable position when you're like rooting for a couple, but you're like, well, isn't she married and doesn't she have like 6 kids that she has to worry about? I really don't want that to be. I'm a shithead for rooting for the relationship. Then.
There is an element on almost all the cast members of entitlement and fulfilling like instant gratification, and it's like they know that that's like the worst parts of themselves. Every single one of the cast members like seems to be struggling with instant gratification and trying to keep that part of themselves in the bottle and living a decent life. And like a good part of like the thematic struggle of this show is seeing these actors wrestle with various vices and temptations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's rough to watch some of the stuff that the entitlement, just like you're talking about, and the situations that it gets them into. It's so foreign to me for some of the situations that they're in, because this is Hollywood. These are accomplished actors who are kind of maybe down on their luck.
Easy with the accomplished part.
Well, listen, sir, you weren't on 90210, so
no, okay.
Yeah,
I'm okay with
accomplishments.
I'm okay.
Use nepotism to get him on that.
I'm okay with calling them actors. I'm okay with calling them successful. I'm not going to go with accomplished. Have you seen their IMDb's? One of these fuckers is in the Sharknado movies, Jesse.
Hey, apparently, if they're going to what number are they on? 7?
Something like that.
If you're going to make 7 movies, it's got to be good, right?
Sure.
Isn't that the rule?
To doubt Ian's earring.
Yeah, exactly.
Or El Dandy.
Do you want to segue into David and either his stalker / son / not son?
We're going to. That's next on the list here, but I want to give Chris. Chris, were you able to? You want to weigh in here on David and Donna?
Jesse hit it on the head there. I was rooting for adultery this entire show. I wanted Brandon and Kelly together. I wanted David and Donna together. I didn't care what Steve was doing. He was, he was just a sad sack. But yeah, I was definitely rooting for infidelity and adultery the entire time.
One of the things about let's focus on David for a minute, because here's the thing. I feel like there's a storyboard going on, and in a writer's room meeting, and Tori's there and Jenny's there and the writers are all there, and they're like, we're gonna have Jenny and Jason, and we're gonna do this stuff with Jason, we're gonna give his wife an illegitimate child, and we're gonna do this with Ian, and we're gonna do, and then they get to David and they're like, does anyone know what the fuck to do with this guy? Wasn't he in the Terminator show? And they're like, I don't know, give him an illegitimate kid or something. Like there wasn't enough with all the relationships and trying to get a reboot off the ground. They were always like, let's have somebody try to torch the set, and let's have somebody stalking the cast and kind of intertwine them. Like, this was where the show, these were the eye roll moments of the show for me. And then they gave it to David, and I wanted to say this and just kind of throw it out there. Look, I never coming from the mean streets of Uniondale, New York, all right, and growing up with the early days of like 80s New York rap, in the 90s when I saw Brian Austin Green doing that Vanilla Ice white boy honky rap bullshit, I was like, fuck this guy and everyone that wrote this character. Let me just put that out there. Okay? May the Wu-Tang Clan run a train on him. That's what I say about David the character. I'm sure Brian Austin Green is a...
Where's your album, Mark?
This is true. I don't have one.
Because he dropped one.
I'm sure he did. All the way down the stairs.
Yes, he did. and while Mark was busy repping, New York East Coast rap on Uniondale, Brian Austin Green was busy dropping albums in '96 and banging Tiffany Amber Thiessen.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, we need to talk about her absence from the show and what a crime against humanity that is. But we'll get there later.
True statement.
Damn it! Go ahead.
She should have been the one that set the fire on.
Dude,
that would have been perfect.
Exactly what I was screaming.
Anyway, I hated the David character, but in all fairness, and getting my own prejudices aside, and how much I hate white people and rap music in the 90s, the character had a lot of life to him. The character was very bright and very vivid, and I don't mean bright like intelligent, but bright like colored. He shined on screen, and he was very interesting, and he would, like all these other characters are struggling with a lot of angst and whatnot, and, and very serious things going on in the world, and there was Brian Austin Green, who was rapping and, having a gay old time. And then him as an adult on this show, could they have made him any drier? He just, it seemed like his character was defined by the things happening to him and not by any one particularly strong personality trait. He just, the one time he gets excited is when his wife Shay has the kid's DNA tested, and it's like, yeah, he's not really your son, and he's like, you got evidence? And then the acting is so bad in that scene, it's almost fucking laughable. But
his wife was awful, wasn't she?
Well, look at David during the last 2 years of the actual show, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't even remember him having a fucking job.
Yeah, he hung out at Donna and Kelly's clothing store all the time, right? He just hung around there.
Yeah, I don't remember him actually even doing anything. He didn't have a piece of the Peach Pit anymore, or Peach Pit After Dark, I should say. He wasn't doing music. He worked for a day at Khaki Nation or whatever it was. I don't even remember him having a job, and they somehow got married. He didn't do anything the last 2 years. He banged that one girl, Sophie, who became a porno actress.
Woo!
He banged the one girl, the middle sister from Charles in Charge.
Yeah.
And that's what he was doing. He didn't actually have any character. He was just going around banging sluts.
So I feel like your argument is, well, Mark, he didn't have a character to start with, so why would he have one now?
Yeah.
Okay. Chris, your thoughts on David's lack of character?
You're right. He was affected by everything around him and didn't do a whole lot in the way of affecting the things around him. The actress who played his wife, I don't think I've seen a worse actress on television.
Lala Anthony.
Oh my lord,
Carmelo Anthony.
It was not good. That was not good. I felt bad for him having to share the scenes with her, because I think I would have started laughing when she tried delivering lines, because she couldn't emote. It was really, really bad. But he kind of is just there. He's kind of just in the background, kind of like towards the end of the original run. He was just kind of there. It was they forgot to, they kept sending him checks, so he kept showing up, and that was the end of it.
Yeah, he's very much a mannequin, and it's like he's there for Tori Spelling to play off of. He's there for these, supposedly dramatic scenes with Lala Anthony, and then he has the scenes with the kid, and the kid's acting circles around him, and it's like, and again, I've seen him in other stuff. He's not that bad of an actor, but I think he's somebody who needs a lot of direction. He needs a good director to pull the performance out from him, because he's not natural. You know what I mean? I think like his natural state of being is very beige, it's very blah, it's very Seth Rollins. There you go. Put it, Marcus spot on your bingo card, everybody. But I, and so and just like Seth Rollins, if you want any kind of personality out of him, if you want any fire, if you want any real drama, you
gotta
really
look to his wife.
yeah, you have to really pull it out of him. You have to instigate it in some way. And I feel like Brian Austin Green is one of those guys where he's as good as whatever director is pulling the performance out of him. Him just natural is cardboard. You know what I mean, Jesse?
I can't disagree with you guys more. I was enraptured with the whole his whole arc. Actually, I think it was probably one of my favorite arcs off of here. I didn't know he isn't the greatest actor throughout this series, but he didn't grate on me as bad as he did you guys. I was fine with what he was doing. He didn't have a lot to do, so I will agree with that for sure. But I don't know. To me, it seemed like he was just naturally like, "Hey, I'm here, and I'm here." I mean, it wasn't horrible in my opinion. I tend to like what he was putting on the screen, so that's just difference between me and you guys, I guess. But I didn't mind him. I thought
David's character should have been kidnapped by Suge Knight and driven, into a desert in Nevada somewhere.
They should have traded him for his wife, who cannot act but at least can breathe heavy. It's like 90% of the Ninja Turtles movies is Megan Fox saying a line and then breathing heavily after for 30 seconds.
All right, I think we just a real quick.
The turtles aren't the only things that are now green and slimy in this movie theater.
Nice. Oh my, controversial. Real quick on the storyline on the kid. When I thought he was the one that was like when they made him out to be like stalking the cast, and the allusion was that he was the one that like burned the set down and all this other garbage. I was like, those were huge eye roll things for me when they actually revealed that like he's just a kid and he is in earnest looking for his father, and he's not trying to trade on the name or anything like that. He's just trying to know his past and know himself. I was like, oh, okay, this isn't so bad. And again, it was like but it just screamed like we just need something for fucking David to do. This can't be all the drunken ramblings of Tori and Jenny. Which would have been an amazing show, and I would have been okay with just that, by the way. Just the two of them podcasting for 30 minutes. Which, hey, ladies, if you want to do that, there's always room on my network. I'm just saying.
They had an interesting way of subverting, like, expectations with that arc. Like, you were like, oh, it's definitely that kid. And that's why I think one of the aspects of this show was that. Like, they were like, oh, we're going to make it seems so obvious. And then when people were, like, oh, here we go. This is back to the 90210 that we know, with all these crazy things going on, and, we got all this drama, and then they turn around and kind of subvert it. Now, the thing is that it's so, I don't know, man. It's so over the top that you were just like, of course it's not.
We already recorded that movie.
I don't know. I think that was one of the unique things that they did throughout the series, was they would take it one way and you may expect it to go one way and it doesn't. But again, it was so surface level schlock sometimes. I liked it for that.
Shannon Doherty and Brock Lesnar are my spirit animals.
Shannon Doherty?
Shannon Doherty negotiates double the salary of everybody else around her. Simply by by just saying no a bunch of times. Yeah, by holding out. Okay? Hence the connection to Brock Lesnar for me. And then when she comes in, she does nothing, and every time you see her on camera, she's eating something. And occasionally she kind of gives like a silent Bob like moment of wisdom. Shannon Doherty, someone give you an Emmy for this show. You're amazing. I have nothing more to say other than I have a picture that I inherited from my grandparents that we hang on the wall of the boy. Next to the boy, my prize painting, I'm putting a picture of Shannon Doherty eating Chinese food in a director's chair. She's fantastic. Chris Sheehan, do you share in my love of spirit animal Shannon Doherty?
No.
Oh, you wound me, sir.
I was surprised she came back. I was reading a little bit. Did she come back only as a tribute to Luke Perry? Like legit? Like she wasn't going to be part of this reboot initially?
Pat,
Is that something that was?
You want to feel that one?
I read that somewhere. It might have just been a hot take on something, but
I did not hear anything about that. It's not impossible.
Yeah, you never know what you read, so it could just be a rumor. But just to step back to David's son for just a sec, I do appreciate that they did zig when I was expecting them to zag, but it was definitely one of the story beats I was expecting. Just like with Andrea, we knew someone was going to be exploring sexuality, and one of the things I kind of figured was definitely going to be a thing was one of them was going to meet a kid that they didn't know they had, and David's as good a character as anybody to get that, I guess. But for Shannon, it was I don't think she did enough to really do anything one way or the other. It felt very superficial. It seemed like she was just there to, and this might very well be the whole point, but it seemed like she was just there to rile everybody else up because of what she was given and how little she was actually giving back. So I think that might have been my sticking point with her return there, and because she didn't even really show up until like the third or fourth episode, right? Like outside of like tiny little vignettes.
Right. She's amazing. She's splendid. She's just like, she is the living embodiment of, you show up to work and people are like, hey, how you doing? You just go, I'm here.
Oh, you know.
So she's so passively great, like I can't get like their use of Shannon Doherty. I don't know if that's like legit or meta or what, but like every time she was on screen, not giving a fuck, you half expected her to give somebody a German suplex. It was amazing.
You know what's funny is when she was on screen not giving a fuck, I was watching not giving a fuck.
I was mesmerized.
I just could not have cared less.
Okay. Do you have is this something that's, roots in the past, or is it just because you don't like her as a human being, or what?
No, I just could not have cared less about her character.
Okay. Okay, so help me out here. If you know anything about her personal life, is that a representation of what she actually does on her time off?
She legit does like animal activism, and it is my understanding she did not want to go into this show making light of her portrayal as sort of a villain in the tabloids.
Okay.
Or real life.
Or yeah. I think she was willing to do this, but she was not willing to be made a mockery of, in terms of things that she was trying to live down and get past. And, look, I don't blame her. We're living in a culture now, I guess they're dubbing it now cancel culture, where, Mark Radulich, comments that Volbeat sounds like they're yelling into women's vaginas, and 20 years later can't run for president because he said that. True story, by the way.
Like, we don't all know what she's done already, though. Come on.
But that's the thing. It's like, at this point, there's a lot of actors just like trying to just live their life, and I'm with them on this. Like, at some point, you got to move on, and and either forgive and or forget. These people did whatever, and we're just not, as a culture, willing to do that right now. And I think it makes it very, very hard for both, regular folk and celebrities to move on. People keep dragging them back into this muck and mire for all kinds of stupid reasons.
Some people deserve that.
That's, you can take it on a case by case basis. Does Shannon Doherty really need to be hung out to dry for the rest of her life for whatever stupid shit she did in the early 2000s?
She deliberately tried to sabotage 2 TV shows.
Yeah. Okay. So in Pat Mullin's People's Court, yeah, she's guilty and needs a life sentence. But I think for me, I'm willing to get over that.
The specter of Shannon Doherty hovered over this TV show every episode I watched. I was just like, is she showing up now? Is she going to show up now? And then when she shows up on the Titantron above everybody, all the cast members at that con, I thought that was great because that was them acknowledging the fact that yes, that Spectre's there, and at some
It's
point,
me, Austin.
you're going to have to address it. You're going to have to address it. I know she was a controversial figure at some point, specifically.
What kind of figure was she, Jesse?
Controversial
Thank you.
figure. Yeah, you're welcome. Definitely back in the 90210 days, and I think that was what I was just itching to see. I was wanting to see the conflict that could potentially arise and how they were going to deal with this. And I loved how there was one instant where they were talking about how everybody showed up in the same color dress. Now, to me, that felt like something that had to have happened in the past.
Yes.
And probably
Almost definitely, yeah.
probably got tabloid coverage. Somebody's got their hair pulled. I don't know. But that had to have happened in the past. So.
Oh, that was an episode of the show.
Oh, it was. Okay, I didn't know that. I didn't know that was that.
Kelly and Brenda wear the same dress to the spring dance.
Oh, okay. I thought for some reason like this was something that had to have happened between the actors or actresses when it like back in the day. So okay, glad I got you guys here because I needed to, I need a little refresher on what happened. But either way, this was her presence, even though she wasn't even on some of the episodes. Was she on the first episode? Like, did they cut to her at the very end? So she was like
on the Titantron, the first episode, right?
Was that well, I know that they were kind of like trying to find out where she was, and we got a little clip of her being over in Uganda or whatever she was doing, saving an animal. And then, the Titantron
Did
and all that.
you just pronounce it Uganda?
Uganda, sir. I said Uganda.
Come on, I'm so upset.
Ugandan giant.
All
right, move on from me.
I adore your Appalachia, sir.
Thank you very much.
Principal photography took place in the show, and there wasn't a whole lot of special effects here, so they wrapped this and got it edited for television pretty quickly. It was shot between May 21st and July 31st of 2019, and then it airs in August. So they really pushed this, and the reason why I'm bringing that up is because the final gag of this show is they're pushing they're filming this pilot at Fox. Fox is the one funding the pilot, and then Fox is then picking TV shows, and there's this wait to see if they're going to get picked up by Fox or not, and then they do, but Emily Valentine informs them Fox has no money, so they have to move the show to Canada for filming, which I thought was fucking hilarious because, boy, is that a thing that's happening in television. And, oh, by the way, Fox is now owned by Disney. So.
That happened.
They didn't acknowledge it directly. She just says the studio has no money. But I thought, but I died laughing at that. I thought that was a great little nod at what was going on with Fox Studios. The only thing that would have made it even better is they had brought up Dark Phoenix. What a shit movie that was.
How's that Gambit movie doing?
Shut up, Pat. Anyway, shots fired. With that being said, I'm going to throw it to you guys. One, anything else you want to talk about that we didn't address? Stuff that you thought was great or you thought was a giant eye roll? I'll go to you first, Pat.
I love the cameo appearance from Jamie Walters when they're trying to figure out who the arsonist is, and they make light of the fact that his character, Ray, who was Donna's abusive boyfriend, who thus immediately endeared himself to me by shoving her down the stairs. They immediately finger him as the culprit because 90210 in real life legitimately did irreparable damage to his acting career because he would go to singing gigs and there'd be people with signs saying "You pushed Donna."
Oh, wow.
And so he couldn't book acting gigs anymore. So he eventually became an LA County fireman, which is awesome and good for him. But if he had any hope of acting anymore, that pretty much ruined it. So I thought that was a cool little wink and nod, and the fact that he played his song,
culture.
Which is cool.
We as a culture ruin a man's career because we can't separate him from the character. We are idiots.
Doesn't it say everything when you like Donna?
Okay. Anything else, Pat?
Yes.
Think
But I
about it now.
can't say it without, yeah, no, I'm not going to say it.
That's good podcast, Pat. Chris Sheehan, anything left unsaid? Any burning desires?
I really enjoyed the cameos when they brought Mrs. Walsh in as their therapist. I thought that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Oh, of course, that final line. If you have a spot for me, and they're like, yeah, shut up.
Yeah, thanks, Mom. Yeah, and Ray Pruitt singing the damn song from The Heights. Oh, that was great. That was that "How Do You Talk to an Angel" song. That was funny stuff. It's not a great song, but it was just such a funny callback to that other spelling show that they tried to launch.
There's so much of that Nickelback type rock and roll that just makes me fucking hate white people. Ugh.
But those are really it. I mean, it was.
You guys should be really happy I have new neighbors and I can't just belt that song out right now.
Terrific.
It's like trying to catch a falling star, man.
In my mind,
Oh God! All I can.
face, my heart.
Can you do Broken Arrow next? Who else is gonna bring you a broken arrow? You know that
I
one?
don't know that song.
Oh, you don't know that one?
Let's do it.
I think so.
Yeah.
More of that white people shit. Speaking of white people shit, Jesse, go ahead.
Okay, so we're final thoughts, things left unsaid, right?
Yes.
This is what makes this show unique and neat, in my opinion. I've used those terms over and over tonight, just because I can't figure out what else to say. But you think about when you were watching 90210 back in the day. When I was young enough to see it on TV, Beverly Hills 90210, the culture of that show, obviously it dealt with real stuff. You know, there was a lot of real issues going on in there, but it was being handled by people who lived in Beverly Hills. You know, that was a little bit out of the 45750 zip code. Okay, far away from me.
That's what we in the English literature department call contrast.
Exactly. So you see those issues being handled, but it's over in Beverly Hills. Well, so there's a disconnect for me. Now we have it where it's a show about a show and actors that were on that show, but these are all actors and actresses, and they just dial those contrasts again up to 11, because I can't identify with some of the struggles an actor and actress has, being Brian Austin Green married to a successful singer. You know, that not the case here. Jason Priestley, you know, he's a director, he's got all the. Nope, I can't identify with that. So it's untouchable, unreachable things.
He is artistically unfulfilled because he cannot direct his indie picture, and he's stuck directing shit on the CW.
Yes.
Yeah, like The Flash.
Yes.
Or
So
Supergirl.
all those archetypes and all
Or
those
Legends
things.
of Tomorrow.
Give me another one, Pat. Got another
Or
one?
any show that Mark actively tries to get a podcast around.
I
any
had
show.
to warn Alexis a year in advance to be ready, because she's the only person that will watch I can push into watching Supergirl or Batwoman, so I can talk about them at a later date. So yeah, Pat's not wrong about that.
So I just thought it was great that they still kept that aesthetic, I guess I would say, in the new show. So and they made it funny. They made it filled with drama, schlock all over the place, and it's still something that I'm going to come back to next season. Are they going to have another season?
Well, that was the last point of discussion that I wanted to bring up, is what you guys predict. It was an event show. This was not meant to be an ongoing series. It was supposed to be 6 episodes. That's it. Get in, get out. We're done now. Let's everyone go back to our mutual corners. But there is talk that, depending on how popular this depending on whether or not the cast want to come back and do it again, they might do a little bit more of the actual characters versus this meta concept. Like, I think what I was reading was that they want to do more show within a show and less about the nuts and bolts of putting the show together and the sort of on-stage, behind-the-scenes drama that this show was. That being said, what do you think, Pat? Do you think we'll come back for more, or they've done their 6 episodes, they've done their bit for God and Country?
I really loved it and thought it was fun, so I imagine it'll be canceled in a matter of minutes.
Chris?
I feel the same way. I would love for it to come back. I actually, as soon as the last episode ended, I Googled if there's going to be a season 2, and I kept getting the answers I didn't want, where they don't know, and that the ratings were tanking after the first episode. So that's not good news.
Yeah, that was the last point I wanted to bring up before I pitched it to Pat. Thank you for reminding me.
Certainly.
So much like AEW Dynamite, this thing starts off with the best number it's ever going to have. 3.86 million viewers tuned in to see what this was and to reunite with old friends. This thing drops by a full million in episode 2, and then by the end of it, it went from a 3.8 to a 1.9.
Ooh.
The second to last episode was actually its lowest viewed. The Pictures Up, number 5, was 1.89 million viewers.
What happened? I mean, was it just because people were on board thinking it was going to be a reboot?
Yes.
I think so.
100%.
The experimental
the
nature
advertising
of it.
never made that clear to people.
Yeah.
The ratings, it got a 1.5 for the first episode, then it drops to a 1, then a 0.8, then a 0.7, then a 0.6, then a 0.7 again.
Yeah.
I don't know. Disney canceled a lot of Fox television and a lot of Fox movies that were currently in pre-production, or even some that I think were in principal photography. They bought Fox. They were like, hey, we need shit for the Disney Plus app. And then they kind of looked at the slate of Fox movies and how these were not exactly bangers, and these TV shows were like, we're just going to cancel all this shit because we've already lost enough money on the studio.
Yeah.
That doesn't give me the warm fuzzies that this thing is going to come back. But what do you think, Jesse?
Let me ask a question. Is there any other TV show that was like this? Anybody can hop in there. Mark, off the top of your head, is there any other TV show that was like this, as meta as it was? Can you give me an idea of anything?
Where the original cast comes back, but they're playing themselves and not their characters?
Yes. Yeah. Is there been anything like that before?
Curb Your Enthusiasm season, 7, where they do the Seinfeld reunion within the show.
Reunion. Yep. Okay. Yeah, I remember that. Watched that. Loved it. This just felt it felt so new to me, like such a new concept that's what sold it for me. I was like, I want to see more of this. If they don't renew this, I can see other TV shows taking this model and using it somehow. In my opinion, I thought it was done fairly well. Aside from some of our qualms with the acting, I think they hit the mark with what they intended to do. So do I want it to come back? Yes. With the facts that you just laid out there on the table, I mean, I'm sure that this has got to be pretty expensive just in regards to bringing the actors together. I'm sure that that's got to be something that Disney would look at and say, well, we're not really too interested in spending that much money on this show anymore. Sad.
You and I had this conversation about Krypton and some other shows that we talked about this past year that were canceled, where we were like, we're not, Swamp Thing was another one, where we're like, we don't understand how these shows are getting canceled when the movement to exclusivity via streaming app is happening far and wide.
Mm-hmm.
And now Disney owns a piece of Hulu, and Hulu is for their adult content. So, for example, The Simpsons will be on Disney Plus, but Family Guy and some of the other Seth MacFarlane universe stuff will stay on Hulu because they're branding that as adult Disney, basically. So why not? I mean, this show couldn't have been that expensive to produce. other than paying salaries.
Salaries.
They fucking shot it over a summer break.
I'm sure the most expensive thing that happened was the set fire.
I
That
know
was probably it.
I know cruises that have gone on longer than the shooting of this show.
Yeah.
So this is one where I don't know why they wouldn't keep it as like a Hulu exclusive, but
I'd love to see it, but I just don't know.
all right. I think that's it. I think we've talked this show enough. Gentlemen, this was fun. Pat, I'm glad you convinced me to watch this because there's no way in God's green earth I would have unless you said, hey, let's do a show on this. And again, that's the way to get me to watch anything. See, Gavin hasn't figured that out yet. He's like, well, what if we do a show on The Master? Well, then I'll make myself watch it again.
We just watched The Master.
Now you see, Junior, he's masturbating into the ocean because he's what's the word he used? He's a reprobate. Neat. Like one person who listens to this up might get this joke. Anyway, let's move on. Chris Sheehan, go ahead and plug your podcast.
You could find me over at chrisandreggie.com, chrisandreggie.podbean.com. We don't have that pod peso anymore, so that's
Stop,
that's
you're
thing,
breaking my heart.
Oh, my heart broke
Something happened to Podcoin?
Go back to sleep, Pat.
But you can find me over there. I have a show with our friend Chris Bailey every Monday called Moritori Mondays, where we talk about the Marvel Comics series Strikeforce Moritori from the mid to late 1980s.
Is that what that is?
It is. It is indeed. And we're actually going to be recording the third and fourth episodes in about a half hour. So
we'll talk about the one where Tito Santana replaces Tom Zink.
Yeah, the Can-Am connection just they exploded, so it was unfortunate.
Look at you building your own little network over there, you fucking competitive motherfucker. Anyway,
and I got the solo gig. Chris is on Infinite Earths. That's a blog and a podcast every other Wednesday. And I'm actually launching. I don't know when this is going to go up, but as of this recording, tomorrow, Friday, I'm releasing the first episode of a show called Remarvel, where I'm going to be looking at Marvel Comics and trying to rediscover my love and passion for Marvel Comics, because I haven't been able to read them in some time. And then there's, of course, the Cosmic Treadmill every Sunday. So that's me, and I'm on Twitter at Ace Comics.
If you enjoyed Chris Sheehan tonight, and why wouldn't you, right? He'll be joining us, myself and Chris Bailey, the Tuesday after the Wednesday, October 9th. the Wednesday after Hell in the Cell, October 9th, we'll be doing a midday recording of our review of Hell in the Cell. So no, this isn't like a crazy wrestling weekend. We're not, we don't have 50 shows we're going to try to jam into a 2-hour podcast. We're just doing Hell in the Cell. So there's that. Speaking of jamming it in, Pat, what do you got going on these days?
Well, I had to look at Tori Spelling's face, so I'm a little off. But that being said, I'm working on a reboot of Silver Spoons.
Are you ever going to record anything on the Casual Heroes? I understand they're doing a Joker recording tonight. They put up what was the last thing I saw they did? Oh, Gavin got very motivated and did a review of The Shining in preparation for Dr. Sleep that's coming out in 2 months.
Yeah, because, you're trying to get up and do current things, so why wouldn't you review The Shining? Sure.
Well before, the sequel comes out. So when are you guys doing a recording again?
When is the new projection from the climate change terrorists that the ice caps will melt? What year is that supposed to be? It'll probably come
1997, right? Isn't that what they said? Is that what Ted Danson said? Could have sworn.
So
was
the
that
next
when he wore blackface?
So the next time if you enjoyed Pat tonight, you'll love him when we possibly could review do a watch along for UFC 243 Whitaker versus Adesanya. Good old Bobby Knuckles, Sir Robert of Knuckles. This Saturday night. We may be doing a watch along. I may be celebrating an anniversary. Pat may be fully in the bag. You never know. It's exciting times here on the Radulich Broadcasting Network. So
Yeah, I promise if we do this, I'll tell you why everybody sucks, and I could beat the shit out of all of them.
I can't wait. Jesse Starcher, go ahead and Jesse, did we buy a football franchise?
Did we buy a football franchise? I have no idea. I know something's going to be popping up here pretty soon about the XFL.
Did I feel like we might be
Where's my football?
I feel like we might be getting a football podcast here on the Radulich Broadcasting Network. We're making deals, man.
Yeah. From what I understand, who do we got? Do we have any idea who's going to be hosting this thing? I know one Jason Teasley's in on it, and also, oh boy, what was his name? All of a sudden, I want to call him Harry. Is that right?
That'll put the butts in the seats.
Let's see here.
Harold? Oh, man. Hey, this is how we do professional plugs, right?
It is Harry.
Okay, all right. So, yeah, they're going to be doing XFL.
He is a wizard, Harry. Sorry, go ahead.
Hey, Jesse, do a plug on something you have no idea about. All right, here I go. Yeah, Harry and Teasley are going to be doing an XFL, I'll say it right this time, XFL podcast sometime soon. Are they doing a preview tonight? Is that what's going to be recorded, I believe? I think that's what they said, so keep an ear out for that. Other things that we have...
Illegal when we don't know anybody playing in this.
Let's just find out how well that goes, and we'll listen to it. All of our listeners will have the opportunity to check that out pretty soon.
Odds that it goes better than Tori Spelling's facial surgeries.
So, anyway.
I hope all the women listening to this and really enjoyed this podcast. We did this for them.
Yes, we did.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, every woman listening, I want y'all to know, curl right up to your speakers, okay? Because I want you to listen very subtly to this, okay? I know that a lot of you like these men that are on TV now with the tight pants and the shirts that, are unbuttoned and they don't have any chest hair. And I understand that because they are not intimidating. But I also want you to know when those guys pretend to be action heroes and they shoot a gun, they shoot blanks. When I shoot a gun, someone gets pregnant.
Very good, Pat. It's smooth like butter, these...
That was a good promo.
That was a good promo. All right, what are you doing on your...
They want to know, but they want to know how I keep them all in line, and the answer is I have a 12-foot bullwhip, and, I just let them roam around freely, but when they make it too close to the door, I get up there, and I just lash LaRue them back. All of their own free will, of course.
But what does Jim Cornette think about all this, Pat?
This goddamn outlaw mud show fuck.
Oh, all right. Can I go now? Am I able to go? All right.
I don't know, dude.
I want to try. So apologies to Jim Cornette there. I didn't mean to interrupt him. Listen, we have a lot of stuff here on the network. You could go check out our most recent source material that we did. What one was that? That was Gotham by Gaslight, right, Mark?
Yep.
Yeah. And then we have a show called Unspoken Issues where Pat's favorite subject, 90s comics, specifically Rob Liefeld and all the great works that he does, comes up on the most recent episode where we discussed New Mutants 95 and the death of Warlock. That's me and Chris Armstrong. Had a good time doing that. And, check out all the other great shows on the Radulich Broadcasting Network. Mark, are you going to run down the schedule, or are you going to end?
Tomorrow, October 4th, we'll be re-releasing an old source material for The Killing Joke in celebration of the new Joker movie. Jesse and I will be reviewing Joker by Brian Azzarello on the 7th of October. And we'll be reviewing the Joker movie on October 8th. The aforementioned Hell in the Cell review is October 9th, and that evening. Boy, if you think Jesse and I acted juvenile during the Hell Yeah review, you ain't seen nothing yet. Steel Panther. Heavy metal rules, baby. You're always going to be a hoe. Right, Chris Sheehan?
Yeah, I'm all over it.
I don't know if you all know this, but Chris Sheehan just wants to fuck himself tonight.
Whoa! Jeez.
Tori Spelling.
Those are all Steel Panther songs, ladies and gentlemen. Not the Tori Spelling part, but the other
I don't even
thing.
think Uncle Paul would fuck her.
Oh no. Speaking of Uncle Paul, Jesse and I will be reviewing Pennyworth Season 1 on October 10th. Victor Kirkado makes his monthly appearance, possibly, maybe, kinda, sorta, October 12th. for Alexander Usyk versus Tyrone Spong on DAZN. DAZN.
Is that Steve from Yellowstone calling?
DAZN, Jesse. What does it rhyme with?
Calzone.
That's right.
Eat a calzone, watch a little DAZN. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. All right, folks, it's time to end this thing. For Chris Sheehan of the Cosmic Treadmill et al., for Jesse Starcher of the Source Material Podcast and Unspoken Issues, and from any damn bar he pleases, Pat Mullin, this has been TV Party Tonight. Be well, be safe, and behave.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans. 30% of Americans who are planning home improvements of $5,000 or more will pay for those renovations with a high-interest credit card. That may not be a great idea. A better idea may be to take cash out of your home with a Quicken Loans 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. The rate today on our 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is 3.99%, APR 4.08%. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
Rate subject to change. Pay 1.25% fee to receive this discounted rate. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. License in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans. 30% of Americans who are planning home improvements of $5,000 or more will pay for those renovations with a high-interest credit card. That may not be a great idea. A better idea may be to take cash out of your home with a Quicken Loans 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. The rate today on our 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is 3.99%, APR 4.08%. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
Rate subject to change. Pay 1.25% fee to receive this discounted rate. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. License in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.